what's going on, guys? I am Matt O'Leary hanging out with you on a Sunday evening, divisional weekend, baby. My favorite weekend of the NFL season. Unfortunately, the Jets haven't played in this weekend in a really, really long time, but I love the divisional round. Unfortunately, the games haven't been great. The first game on Saturday was pretty solid, but not so much the second game. First game today kind of stunk. This one, you have San Francisco driving, so I have the game on behind the main camera. So if you see me looking up over the top of the camera, that's why. As Brock Purdy dumps it off to McCaffrey right around the 10-yard line on first and goal. But I really love this weekend of football. It's better than the wild card weekend usually because you start to get to some of the better teams. On paper, I thought, hey, Bills, Bengals should be a great matchup. Boy, did the Bengals make them look silly today. They beat the bricks off the Buffalo Bills today. Josh Allen didn't look great. That defense got pushed around by an offensive line that is missing three guys, and Joe Burrow is just that guy. Joe Burrow is just absolutely unbelievable. The one thing that I will say, especially after watching Jalen Hurts, watching Patrick Mahomes tough it out, watching Trevor Lawrence most of that game, I would really like to be a part of watching a team that has really good quarterback play. It looks like a lot of fun just when your quarterback gets into one of those zones and looks completely unstoppable. So that's what we're going to start with, and that's what we're going to get into. We'll talk, you guys know the drill. Send in super chats. Your questions will jump the line. Otherwise, we'll just kind of go through the two names that have been linked to the Jets most recently in the offensive coordinator search. We'll talk the playoffs, whatever you guys want, quarterback search, OC, whatever. We'll go through, hanging out for an hour or so roughly. But let's pull up the two names. We'll start Clint Kubiak and Joe Brady were the two names linked to the New York Jets. So let's pull up. Here's Clint Kubiak. He really was the offensive coordinator only for that one season last year in 2021. For the Minnesota Vikings, they were 12th in yards, 14th in points, middle of the road. Over his career, he was an offensive assistant with the Denver Broncos from 2016 through 2018. Quarterbacks coach with the Vikings in 19 and 20, 2021 OC, and then the quarterbacks coach and passing game coordinator with the Denver Broncos. V-Man chimes in with the super chat. Let's go to V-Man quick for a second, then we'll dive back into Kubiak. He goes, last time the Bills were in a Super Bowl, Nirvana was touring Europe. V-Man, I love the history lesson. You bringing the history knowledge is so good. It's been tough for those Buffalo Bills. They've had a tough ending to their season for 3 straight years. They lost in 2019 to KC. They lost in no. Am I wrong? I might be wrong there. They lost in 2019 to the Texans in the wild card round, I believe. 2020 was when they lost to the Chiefs. 2021, last year, they lost to the Chiefs. And then this year, they lose to the Bengals in the divisional round. Back-to-back divisional round exits, getting kind of blown out at home when you're a Super Bowl favorite and favored by 5.5 points in that game. Kind of embarrassing. Tough to see it. Hate to see it for the Buffalo Bills. And a lot of Sean McDermott and Josh Allen slander going around on Twitter from Bills fans, which, I mean, we can't celebrate too hard because the Jets haven't been in the playoffs in a goddamn eternity, but that is a silver lining you could take from today. Thank you, V-Man, for that one. To get back to Clint Kubiak, he was the quarterback coach and passing game coordinator. He took over play calling in late November for Denver this year. I'm going to pull up their numbers. So this is Denver's schedule. I believe from this point on is when he took over play calling, which 16, 10, and 9 is obviously not great. But after that, got like slightly better, 28, 24, 14, 24, 31 points. And really the big key with Clint Kubiak, this is his page that we're looking at, is if he's able to bring Gary. Can he get his father out of retirement to be some sort of assistant, an overseeing assistant with the Jets? If that's the case, I think I would be interested there. We'll pull up, this is his father, Gary Kubiak, and just everything that he's done as the OC with Denver from 95 through 2005 with OG Shanahan. Offense was damn good pretty much every year. Struggled a little bit with Houston early on, but quarterback play didn't really get great until, around this point. And just what he was able to do with Matt Schaub as his quarterback, impressive, man. Impressive stuff. Was Baltimore's OC in 2014. Really good numbers with Joe Flacco, the 12th and 18th, 12th in yards, 8th, excuse me, in points. And then with Denver in 2015, keep in mind, this was with Peyton Manning, like injured. And then 2016, 27th and 22nd, but Trevor Siemian was their starting quarterback in 2016. Let's not forget. And 2020, he was the OC in Minnesota with Kirk Cousins. I thought Kirk had, a pretty good season that year, 4th and 11th. So let's look at Minnesota's just offense and one with Kirk Cousins. So Cousins in 2020, 4,200 yards, 35 touchdowns, 13 picks, 266 yards per game, 105 quarterback rating. The following year with son Clint Kubiak, not Gary, he was, let's see, 4,200 yards again, 33 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, 263.8 yards per game, 103.1 rating. Pretty solid. Honestly, pretty solid. And then, last but not least, we'll bring him up. Joe Brady. Here's Joe Brady's numbers. He was with Carolina in 2020 and 2021 as an offensive coordinator. 21st in points, 24th in points, 21st in yards, 24th in points, and then 30th in yards and 29th in points. Did not have a great ending there. You could put in that they had Teddy Bridgewater and Sam Darnold as their quarterbacks, but it's kind of inexperienced. He was the quarterback coach for Buffalo. Obviously, Buffalo's out now, so maybe he is available for an interview finally. Really, his claim to fame, though, was what he did with Joe Burrow as the passing game coordinator and the wide receivers coach at LSU in 2019. And obviously, Jamar Chase was there in 2019, 99% positive. Of course he was. Yeah, so he has a history, but he's on the younger side, and there is risk involved there, even though Joe Brady intrigues me slightly. Both of these guys intrigue me a little bit to different levels. Clint is, if he's bringing his father along, I think that makes sense. You have Clint as the OC, Gary as some sort of overseer on the offensive side of the ball. And with Brady, I think if you were to hire a younger guy like that, you would have to add some sort of veteran, maybe like a Nathaniel Hackett or just somebody who's a vet on that staff as well. So let's get into the comments now. We'll kind of go through and talk about it. Appreciate you guys hanging with me today. Anders will get us started. I'll go in here. Carr and Olsen or Rodgers and whoever. That's who he wants to see. Hard to blame you. Olsen has had some success with Derek Carr. The last go around with Carr was in 2020 and 2021. And Carr had, let's see, in 2020, 4,000. Why don't I pull this up? 4,100 yards, 27 touchdowns, 9 picks. And then in 2021, 68.4 completion percentage, 4,800 yards, 23 touchdowns, 14 picks, 282.6 yards per game, and 94 rating. Solid. I think if you're bringing in Carr, Olsen would make a lot of sense. I'm not opposed to that one at all. I think that's one of the better options for the New York Jets at the offensive coordinator position right now, just because, again, based on who is available and all these kinds of guys, that they're interviewing right now. It's a lot of inexperienced guys. So that's not a bad idea. What else we got in here? Curly says, hence why I said they were brand new. What are we talking about? The Beatles? We're doing some Beatles chat in there. No, shocking. V-Man with some classic rock stuff. B2B says, I'm a Kubiak fan big time. Don't know how much about the son. Possible Shanahan dad-son repeat? Maybe. I would hope so. Obviously, if they were able to do that. Kubiak, the father, Gary, is very well respected. We pulled up his numbers. He was very, very impressive. Clint, a little bit of an unknown still at this point. He was really only a full-time OC for that 1 year in 2021, and I thought he was okay. I thought, relatively solid numbers. Wasn't anything phenomenal, but, I think it's worthwhile. And again, especially if you're able to get Gary with him. NY Jets superfan. This one's tough. 2 years ago, Lawson and Hendrickson were the big free agent edge rushers. Wish we signed Hendrickson. What a beast. Yeah. I look, I was a big Carl Lawson fan, and I think he's okay. He's not obviously as good as Trey Hendrickson, but here's what Hendrickson's done over the last 2 years. 14 sacks in 2021, 8 sacks this past year. Um, but just comes up big when when it matters most. He was very, very involved today. And unfortunately, Carl Lawson missed all of his first year and was solid this year, but not a $15 million a year player. Finger Lakes Jet fan says Jets are finally bringing in some actual OCs. Hope so. I just can't do. I mean, we talked about it, but like the Caley, the Patriots tight end coach, come on. I hope we could do better than that. Um, Another one that scares me a little bit is Patullo, the passing game coordinator for the Eagles. I know that they've had a ton of success, but that would be his first time calling plays. So that's a massive gamble. That is a really big gamble to bring in a guy who would be calling plays for the first time in his career. Can it work out? Of course. Sure, it can work out, but I don't know. There's risk involved there. It scares me a little bit. Ethan, the Jet fan, says, if you were to guess, who would the OC end up being? Also, keep the offseason content coming. Love it, my guy. Thank you so much, Ethan. Really appreciate that. Olsen? I really think it's old. And to go off another question where Dan right under that says, is Carr still your favorite choice at quarterback? Most reasonable? I think so. If I had to guess, I think Olsen and Carr just makes a lot of sense. Yes, you could theoretically swing bigger for a Lamar, Rodgers, Brady, guys like that. And there's pros and cons to all those, and there's pros and cons with Carr. But I just, from a realistic perspective, I really think Carr is probably the most realistic one. He would be a significant upgrade, in my opinion. He's somewhere between the 12th and 15th best quarterback in football, in my eyes. And it's more feasible to pull that off than convincing Aaron Rodgers to come here via trade, signing Tom Brady in free agency, which would just be weird in general, and trading for Lamar. Does Lamar have the biggest upside? Probably, yeah, because of the MVP and his age, but injuries, cost that it would cost to acquire him, cap hit after acquiring him. I would absolutely get it from the Jets' perspective if that's the swing that they wanted to take, but I think if you had to really, like, if you're asking me to genuinely guess, I think it's going to be Carr. Jose says, anyone around the Nick Sirianni tree I'm hiring. Okay. All right. That's fair. That's fair. I mean, Sirianni's been great. I get it. I'm just, the first time play caller thing scares me slightly. Hopefully you can understand that. Jets Gang says, I like Marcus Brady as OC from the Eagles, the quarterback coach from Philadelphia. He's done a nice job there. He's never called plays at the NFL level, but he's done it in college for 3 different teams. Oklahoma, I wanted to say Oklahoma. Florida is definitely one of them, but here, why don't we pull it up? Marcus Brady. Oh no, I'm sorry. Marcus Brady is the OC from that's Jets getting confused me. Marcus Brady is the OC from Indianapolis. You're thinking of oh my God. What the hell is his name? Now I'm blanking on his name, but here's Marcus Brady. Marcus Brady was with the Colts the last couple of years. His offense was 16th in yards, 9th in points in 2021. 2022 was 27th and 30th. He was a quarterbacks coach in 2018, 19, 20. Offensive coordinator the last 2 years. He was an OC in the CFL for a while. I don't know if he's my favorite. Who am I thinking of? Who's the Eagles quarterback coach that I'm thinking of? Eagles quarterback coach. Brian Johnson. That's sorry. Okay. I thought you meant Brian Johnson. That's my bad. Let's do Is this gonna give me? Nope. Okay, let's do it like this. We'll go on Wikipedia. We'll do his wiki. Everyone knows if it's on Wikipedia, it's true. This is the chat is kind of cutting it off a little bit, but he called plays at Utah, Mississippi. He was Dak's quarterback coach at Mississippi State, offensive coordinator at Houston, quarterbacks coach at Florida, OC with Florida in 2020, and he's been the quarterback coach for the Eagles the last 2 years. Okay. Jets gang, that's my bad. I didn't realize that Marcus Brady was with the Eagles now at this point. Interesting. I don't know how sold I am on him. I think he's fine. I think he could do worse than Marcus Brady, but is he at the top of my list? I don't know if I would go that far. Rob says some of these names are just underwhelming. Any thoughts on Mike McCoy or Jay Gruden? Jay Gruden is an interesting one. It's been a little while for him as an OC. He was the head coach from 2014 to what here? Why don't I do this? He was the head coach from 2014 to 2019 with Washington. Offense really wasn't great outside of 2016. 2015 was okay, I suppose, but really 2016 was the OC in 2020 with Jacksonville, and this past year, I believe, was a consultant with the Rams. Don't know how much I love that one. Mike McCoy. Now let's pull up Mike McCoy. McCoy was the coach of the Chargers from 13 to 16, and he was the Arizona's OC in 2018. Obviously, they were really bad with Rosen. Denver in 2017. Who the hell was their quarterback even? So I don't know if that's going to be really fair to judge with Trevor Siemian and Brock Osweiler at the quarterback. I don't think we could really hold that one against him. Did have some success with San Diego. Put up some solid numbers. Put up good numbers in Denver with Peyton Manning. So I don't know how fair that is. Of the two, I guess I would say of the two, I would probably lean McCoy, but not a huge. I guess I can't say I'm a huge fan of Jay Gruden at this point. Micro Fox is asking about Greg Roman. So Greg Roman's a controversial one. The reason why I'm so apprehensive about Greg Roman is when you look at his offense, you see, wow, okay, some of these things really jump out where he was like up here when he was second in yards and first in points. And then he was seventh in points in 2020, in 2021, 6th and 17th this year, 16th and 19th. Obviously, Lamar missed some time there. His rushing offenses are great, legitimately great. But passing is abysmal, is terrible. That his passing offense numbers are really, really, really bad. So if you were bringing him in as a run game coordinator or a consultant in the run game, that is completely different. I just think his passing offense is really that tough. And I've seen people say, well, he's had success with Lamar and Alex Smith and, all these guys. But I guess as Dalton Schultz gets into the end zone, Matt O'Leary NY favorite. We'll see if Maher hits the extra point. Does he have the yips? This is the biggest question for me. And they're showing him Brett Maher. The wild card, he was 1 of 5 on extra points. What do we think? This has my attention. We'll get back to Greg Roman in a second here, but I am locked into this extra point, as I'm sure most of you guys who are also watching this game are, because that was a huge storyline. He was trying to warm up, and let's see. Blocked. Oh my God, blocked. Oh God. Oh, that pork. Oh my God. You did it again. Blocked. missed again. Now, to be fair, it was blocked. But Roman with the passing numbers is something that would scare me a little bit. Let's go back to the chat. Tyson says, I guarantee 37% of Jets fans will hate whoever our no OC is. Yeah, there's very few guys around the league as an offensive coordinator that I feel like their teams like them to begin with. But Jordan says, I like Roman. He wins games. Yeah, sure. But I think that offense kind of runs stale after a while, too. Jordan's left, which is at the bottom of Jordan's list, apparently. Michael says his passing numbers were bad for Baltimore, but his wide receivers has been underwhelming. That's true, but I was told that that's kind of on him, why the wide receivers have been underwhelming. It's more the style of the offense than the actual wide receivers itself. Now, however you want to believe, if you want to believe that, that's your call. But from what I've been told and from my understanding, it's a lot of it has to do with what he needs to run his offense, and he doesn't really put much value in the wide receiver position. Curly says quarterback is more important than OC, in my opinion. Oh, God. Tony goes, Greg Roman will maximize the Straveler package. If that's really what we are looking for, then I don't know why. Ethan says, would you consider doing a 32-team mock draft with other YouTubers, you representing the Jets? A lot of work would go into that. Those things are a really cool theory, but those are so hard to put together. They really are. Maybe. I will say a solid maybe. Micro Fox says, if Roman is so terrible in passing, how did Lamar get an MVP? Well, in Lamar, and we'll go right back to it. Sure, absolutely. In his MVP season, they were 32nd in passing attempts and 27th in passing yards. He was bottom 5 in passing attempts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of his 10 years as an OC, and bottom 5 in passing yards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times in his 10 years. So I get it. Look, he's had success with, in a few places, but it seems to run out quickly. His offense seems to go the other way rather quick. NY Jet Superfan says this Dallas kicker is jinxed. Feels that way. He may never hit an extra point again. I feel for him. Jimmy says, Matt, do you have any idea why the big name candidates haven't been called in for an interview? Have they interviewed anywhere? I guess would be my question. I think eventually they want to talk to these guys, and they've expressed interest in some of these guys, but this search isn't going to be over quickly. It's going to drag out. It's going to carry on for a little while here. It's not necessarily a fun one, but is there an actual list? Let's see. Jets OC interview list. If there is an actual list, I will pull that up on screen right now. This was last updated 6 days ago. All right, so I don't know if that's really accurate, but Ethan says would love to see the Jets interview Brad Nussmeier, the Cowboys quarterback coach. Okay, let's look him up. What else has he done in his career? He has been the quarterbacks coach from 2020 to present. He was the tight ends coach with Dallas in 2018-19, OC with Florida from 15 to 17, OC with Michigan, Alabama, Washington, Fresno State, quarterbacks coach with the Rams in 06 and 07. Quarterbacks. So this guy is definitely, gotta say, at a minimum, knows the quarterback position very well. Okay. All right. His resume as a quarterback coach is relatively impressive. He's had a lot of stops. Dallas, Florida, Michigan, Alabama, Washington, Fresno State, the Rams, Michigan State, Ottawa, BC Lions. So he's kind of the Canadian Football League. He's been all over the place, but okay. I'm interested. I have a slight intrigue. Now, I think you would have to pair him with some sort of vet, but guy's been around a lot. Jordan says Leftwich is all Arians play calling and Brady quarterback play. I have no faith in him. Okay. I understand that. I think Leftwich's biggest thing when he was calling plays for Tampa in 2019 was having the number 3 offense with Jameis Winston having 30 interceptions. That's what impressed me the most about him. This year really stunk. This was his first time that it was really, really bad, outside of also kind of being terrible with Arizona in 2018. But he did have some success with Tampa in 2019. But I understand the Arians argument, so I'm not going to fight you too hard on that one. Joe S says none of these guys are inspiring. Unfortunately, I think that's part of the problem. That is definitely part of the problem with this search. Arnold says Kubiak sounds good. I'm assuming we're talking Clint, because Gary, I don't think, is coming out of retirement to be the full-time OC, but as some sort of advisor, I think that is, potentially on the table. But Clint wouldn't be terrible. Jimmy Jet says one Brady for all our openings: OC, quarterback coach, and passing game coordinator. And potentially what about quarterback? Tom Brady. He's available, technically. As nuts as that might sound. Joe S says, how does Todd Bowles keep his job? I don't know. He is genuinely terrible. Very, very nice guy. Should be a defensive coordinator. Is a damn good coordinator, but he is not an NFL head coach. He was bad with the Jets. He was gifted a very good roster that Bruce Arians had in the Super Bowl and in the playoffs last year, and they made it this year barely. They had a below 500 record because they were in an awful division. And then after that, it just wasn't very good. Still so stubborn. Loves to punt. I don't know how he keeps his job. I really don't. Phil Adams says, has the Olsen interest gone cold? Not for me. I'm still interested in Olsen. I think that would make sense. I don't know if the Jets have really reached out yet. I would imagine that it would, again, if Derek Carr is really high up on their list of candidates, wouldn't it make sense to run it back with a coordinator he's very comfortable with? But then you could kind of get stuck in that boat that the Broncos felt like they were when they hired Hackett, because I think they assumed that Rodgers was going to get traded to them, and then that really backfired, and then they traded for Russell Wilson, and then things went off the rails. Michael says, I need one of the top 4 available options at quarterback. I'll be happy with any of LJ, AR, DC, TB in that order. Yeah, I think those are the 4 most popular choices for the Jets to figure out at the quarterback position. I think any of those 4 would be a really big upgrade. Micro says Frank Reich is a pipe dream in my opinion when he has the option of being a head coach, but honestly, everyone else is like a floor. You want to go that route again? I don't think the ground and pound is bad. No, I think you just need a balance, and if that's in reference to Roman, he's very clearly not balanced. Jingle Dub says Todd Bowles would be a good head coach if he knew how to be a head coach. He doesn't. He doesn't. He can coach a defense. He's a very good defensive coordinator. He is not a good head coach. He has no idea when to be aggressive, when to go for it, when to punt. Way too conservative for his own good. And he just flips over his offensive staffs constantly. NY Jet Superfan with an interesting one. He says, Matt, what do you think the asking price will be for Lamar, Rodgers, and Carr? Lamar, I would say at least 2 firsts. I would think at least 2 firsts. Carr, I don't think would be nearly as much because of just the situation that they're in and his cap hit. I would think it would be similar to like the Wentz or Matt Ryan deal, where it's like a third, maybe it goes up to a second at the most. Rodgers is a really tough one for me. Because I think if you think back, in the Favre trade, the Jets traded a conditional pick that could have turned into a first if they won the Super Bowl, but I believe ended up being a 3rd or 4th round pick. So I would think that Rodgers would probably be a little bit more than Derek Carr's value, which I think Carr's is probably a 3rd. And Lamar would be the highest of multiple firsts because of age. Age is going to play a big factor into it as well. V-Man says Salah knew David Carr from his time with the Texans. Was he there at that point? They must have overlapped, I guess. Let's see. Robert Saleh was there from 2005 to 2010. Wow, he was there longer than I thought. In 2005, was David Carr still there? Yeah, I guess so. Yep, David Carr was bad. Carr got a really raw deal as the number 1 pick, right? Was he a first overall pick in 2002? Yeah, those teams absolutely stunk. They were really bad, those Houston teams, especially on the offensive line. He got hit constantly. Ooh, Tony dropping in with a hot take. I really like it. Tony Alexio says Todd Monken is the best choice for OC. I like Monken. I like him a lot. Somehow he lost out. He was the runner-up to Adam Gase for the Jets as the head coach in 2019. Yuck. Joe S. says Monken not coming here. Money talks. If you pay him more than what he's getting at Georgia, I think he would think about it. Oh, I don't agree with this one, Micro. I want to coach with pulse. Silent Bulls are corpses. Say what you want about Bill O'Brien. He'll bring an energy to this team. Bill O'Brien was so goddamn toxic. And Saleh is not. They are very different. Bowles is really a corpse. Saleh as a corpse on the sideline, I don't agree with that at all. I don't think we're watching the same guy on the sideline. Snoopy says Buffalo's windows closing and they lost in epic fashion. Good day. It's tough. I don't know if their window is closing. They are still going to be a favorite in the AFC East. They have work to do, though. They really need to get that run game going more consistently. And that defense, that was tough. 49ers just tie it up on a field goal. 6-6, 3:43 remaining in the second. Oh, God. Mike Terry asked, what about Joe Lombardi from the Chargers? No, absolutely not. What he did with Justin Herbert is borderline criminal. He tried to turn him into a check down guy. His air yards per attempt is nowhere near where it has to be. With Herbert's arm, he should be trying to get the ball down the field, and it was all dink and dunk stuff. Not a good offensive guy. Absolutely not. Malburn 2 says Bills are going to get Bijan. They That would be deadly. I don't want to think about him going there. That'd be tough. I think Baltimore might consider picking him up, and they'll pick before him. Mr. Tuda says it is closing because they have to get rid of $23 million in cap space. Good point. Kevin C says Bills are so overrated. I've seen that a lot today. I don't know if that's fair. They're a very good team. Bills had no rushing attack this year. They weren't balanced. I agree with. If you want to be critical of the Buffalo Bills, I think that's the big one. Ethan, the Jets fan, says in a super chat, do I release my Moneyball meme of you on Twitter? What's the Moneyball meme? I'm intrigued by this, Ethan. You caught my attention. You officially hashtag caught my attention. What the Moneyball meme is. V-Man says, if we have a solid off season, we can take the East. I hope so. It's going to really come down to the quarterback play, isn't it? That's going to be really big. And what happens with Miami? How healthy is Tua? How much are they able to run back? Does that defense get any better? I would love for the Jets to take that step forward. I really hope that's the case. Ethan, the Jet fan, said I did want a Jet Central. Okay. After I finish up did he put it out? Let's see. Okay, I'll pull it up. Here we go. Billy, this is Matt O'Leary. He's one of the most underrated players in all of baseball. His only defect is that he can sling a ball better than Zach Wilson. That's going to retweet. That's awesome. Ethan, you crack me up, my friend. That's oh, that's great. That's fantastic. Good stuff, man. I'm ready. I'm ready to go. Where's my football? It's not on my desk. Again, I'll pretend to throw my mug. Truck my Yeti across the yard. V-Man Super Chat still got me in my head. Not a bad way, but if the Jets have a solid offseason taking the East, what does that mean? So fixing quarterback, I would imagine fixing offensive line has to be very high up there. Linebacker and safety help. Other than that, you got to like defensive line, got to like corner, got to like wide receiver for the most part. Getting Brees back, getting AVT back. I like the optimism. Steven asks, hey, Matt, I'm not sure myself, but do you know if they interviewed Greg Olsen yet? I don't believe they have interviewed him yet. I would like them to, Steven. I think that's a name that makes a lot of sense, especially if they're seriously considering Derek Carr for the quarterback position. I think it would make sense to bring him in, but I don't believe they've interviewed him yet. Let me see. We'll do one more quick search here. Yeah, I don't. Oh, wait, hold on. Apologies. I don't believe they, from my quick little extra Google search, it doesn't look like they interviewed him yet. Snowball. Matt, did you know Von Miller didn't play today? And they only mentioned that a million times, right? Micro says he definitely looked the part, O'Leary. Thank you. Curly says, just fix the quarterback. No big deal. Easier in practice. It's only took about 50 years of trying. Joe says they might have interviewed Olsen. They don't announce every interview. Yeah, it's tough to keep track of all this stuff, of who they've talked to and who they've been able to interview so far. Some of it's kept hush-hush. Other times agents leak it. Other times the team leaks it. Other times the team just flat out announces it on Twitter. But Nick H says, remember when you wanted Joe Brady to be the head coach? LOL. Yeah, I mean, 2019 was a lot, very different times. I did. I also wanted Matt Rule and Cliff Kingsbury. Those were high up on my list. That did not work out well. Dante, what's up, my friend? Thank you so much for the super chat. Says, O'Leary, can you start for quarterback? I'm ready, man. Hang on. I want to see if I could find the clip that I tweeted out. I'm ready. Maybe that's it. Okay. Bam. There we go. From the infamous quarterback video. 6'4", 225 is a little light now. We're probably looking more like 232. Age 27. Did throw a football within the last 5 years after making that video. So I think I like my chances. Jingle Dub says, Marcus Brady from Indiana Jones? Rob says, I think we'd all be elated for Monken. Just don't see him leaving Georgia for this job. Unless they throw a crap ton of money. Oh, here's an interesting one. Cowboys in relatively close to field goal range. Ball on the 35, so that would be a long field goal. 52-yarder, maybe a little bit more than that, and it looks like they're going to go for it. Or maybe they might be just trying to get him to jump off sides, or it might go down to the 2-minute warning. No, they're going to let it go down to the 2-minute warning. Yep, they do that. So they 35, what's 35 plus 18? Let's do some math here. 53. I was off by a yard. So it looks like they're not going to attempt the field goal. Maybe coming out of the 2-minute warning, they'll do something different. Now, I'm watching without any sound on the broadcast, so I don't know if they've mentioned that or what, but crazy. Dante says the picture is gold, built like Josh Allen. Looks good in shorts. I can tell you that. In pads, maybe not so much. Ooh. Microfox says, so do you believe Namath keeps his word and unretires his number for Rodgers? Or technically, I mean, Brady wears 12 also. Could you imagine? You know what? I think he would. If Aaron Rodgers was traded to the Jets, I think he would let him wear number 12. Now, would the Jets actually do that is a really big question. Maybe they would. I think if he gives his blessing, then who are the Jets to be the ones to stand in the way and be like, you know what? No, we're not going to let you wear number 12, Aaron Rodgers. Tell me how that makes any sense. That doesn't make any sense at all to me. Snowball says he should rent number 12. Okay, so kind of pay off Joe Namath. Dan says, hey, Matt, would you rather play the Cowboys on Thursday night game if they're the defending Super Bowl champs or on Thanksgiving against them? I would say to start the season. I don't want to watch the Jets on Thanksgiving unless it's the last game, which that wouldn't be. That's the 4 o'clock or 3:30, whatever that game is. I don't love the holiday because it takes away from it, man. Like, I don't want to have to be locked into a Jets game when like the family's over and stuff like that, because then I'm gonna miss too much. I gotta be like locked in for these games, and I can't. I miss too much. A dumb uncle, a dumb aunt asking questions. Like, I don't need that. I don't need to be distracted anyway. Or what if we have to eat during the game? Like, there's so many variables there. Give me the first game of the year. King Co said he'll get it, but if Carr wore number 12, then no way. No, Carr's gonna have to try to fight off DJ Reed for his number. But at that point, DJ Reed was great for the Jets this year. Going to make him change his number? I don't think so. Not Jets related, but why is Shane Steichen not getting enough love for HC gigs? The current OC for the Eagles and was there the first year with Herbert. Great question. Let's look up some of his numbers. Good question. He's 37 years old. He was the OC in 2020. He was the OC Hang on. OC for the Chargers in 2020, OC for the Eagles the last 2 years. 9th in yards, 18th in points, 14th and 12th, 3-3. I don't know. That's a really good question. I think eventually he's got to be one of these next guys, right? If not this year, I'd imagine next year. Oh, that's cold, Dante. He goes, "What if Carr took Wilson's number 2?" That would be funny. Oh God, that would be funny. I don't think so. I would guess, what number did Derek Carr wear at Fresno State? Let's see. Derek Carr, Fresno State. He also wore number 4 there. 14? Darnold's number? I mean, that might just have some bad juju. That was also Richard Todd's number, I believe. Right? Someone tell me if I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure that was just his number. I don't think it'd be number 2. Micro Fox says, I would give Zach number 69. Nice. Can you imagine a quarterback with the number 69? I don't like, I'm not to be old man yells at cloud here. But I really don't like the new rule that the NFL made last year with the number changes, where like you can pretty much wear any number you want and like position doesn't really matter. It's a weird look to me. I don't like it. Sorry, guys. I know that's like that's a boomer Matt take. And I'm not a boomer, I'm a millennial, but I don't like it. Joe says, love this dashboard with the chat, Matt. Good job. Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm using OBS. So the unfortunate thing, so I was using StreamYard, and most Jets YouTubers use StreamYard, and there are aspects of it that I really like, but it got the last little bit when I've been doing these streams, it was like freezing on me. So I switched to OBS and it's worked a lot better. The only thing, so it has the chat on the side of the screen, which I really like. I think that's kind of cool. But what I missed from StreamYard is like when there's a super chat or like any kind of comment, like you'd be able to click on it and it would pop up on the full screen underneath. But you know what? I think I could live with this. I kind of like the layout with the chat like this. Thank you for the support, Joe. Really appreciate it. Curly agrees with me. Thank you. He goes, agree on the number change, Matt. So weird. Did Tony Pollard just break his ankle? I was looking down. I'm a big fan of Pollard. He's someone who I just always seem like I end up with him in fantasy. You know, I'm sure you guys have players around the league who aren't on the Jets that you just kind of like for some reason. Pollard's one of those guys for me. I just think he's getting carried off into the medical tent right now. That's a shame, man. You don't want to see that. That's horrible. Finger Lake says, I don't think a foot is supposed to bend like that. Oh, that's luckily I didn't see the replay, I guess, but that's ugly. You don't want to see an injury. A lot of Bills overrated talk in here. King Jamie the Mad, congrats on the big win yesterday. He says, I hit the thumbs up. Did you? Yeah, if you're in here hanging out with me, I'll be on for a little bit longer here. Please make sure to leave a like. Really appreciate the support. King Jamie, he's in here with a bunch of different Jets streams. So shout out to him. Shocking, Dak with an interception. He's been picked off a ton this year. So just want to show his Chiefs some love and Patrick Mahomes some love. I thought that was a really gutsy performance for him yesterday. Obviously, he wasn't 100%, but that looked really ugly. Ankles are not supposed to bend that way. But shout out to him, man. Micro says, I thought the Jets were going to be terrible based on the Philadelphia preseason game. I had no idea how good the Eagles were. Yeah, you know what? I thought, obviously, the Eagles made the playoffs. I think I had them as a wild card team. Like, I thought they'd be okay. Jalen Hurts, I did not expect him to take the leap that he did. He went from like a solid quarterback to a top half of the league guy by a lot, like a top What, he was top 5 this year easily. He's in the MVP conversation. King Jamie says, if you got Aaron Rodgers, I'd be so scared. All right. I like that. Ethan says, how would you feel with Bieniemy at OC? I think a lateral move would make sense for him to prove that he's not Andy Reid's sidekick. See, now maybe King Jamie could answer if he's still in the chat here hanging with us. I don't see him. Why would he leave the Chiefs? I guess maybe that would be his way to finally getting a head coach job. We would say that, see, it's not just because I'm with Andy Reid, but working with Pat Mahomes and Andy Reid has to be such a blast. If he's available, I would love it. I think he's a really good offensive mind. And I know, people are going to say it's all because of Mahomes and it's all because of Reid. But I think that's discrediting what Eric Bieniemy is doing here. King James says EB is damn good, but he'll only leave for a head coach. That's what I think too. I don't think he's leaving Kansas City to become a coordinator somewhere else. I'd be very surprised if he did that. I really would. Hebrew Polymath says Joe Burrow is obviously the best quarterback in the NFL. I still have Mahomes, but Burrow is climbing that list very quickly. To me, it's still Mahomes. Dan asks, who gets cut this offseason? Braden Mann, Corey Davis, potentially Carl Lawson. Those are 3 big ones that jump out. Maybe Jordan Whitehead. That's a contract that you can get out of. Maybe Dwayne Brown post June 1st. King Jamie the Mad follows that up with too many rings to come for KC. I figured if EB got his 2nd ring, then he would be a head coach somewhere. There you go. Michael says Tomlinson ? But unfortunately, with how that contract is structured, it's very, very difficult to get out of it. There would be a lot of dead money left on it. Here, let's do that right now. Let's pull up Laken Tomlinson contract. I've looked at it before, but it's kind of rough. According to Over the Cap, so let's do this. It cuts off over here, but I'll read it out. If you cut him pre-June 1st, it's 18.5 million dead cap hit, which is costing you 1.16 million additional against the cap. Post June 1st, you would save 3.1 million, but it would still be $14.3 million of dead cap money. I don't think they're going to want that much dead cap money. You could potentially do it. Yeah, I would think after 2023 would be the earliest that you could do it. It would be 4.3 in dead money, and it would save you 13. That would be the time to do it. Yeah, King James says I like Burrow. He has a lot of win in him, but Mahomes is in a league of his own. I agree. I don't. Mahomes is, to me, number 1 by far. Burrow is anywhere from 2 to 5, somewhere in that range. Hebrew says Carl Lawson had 7 sacks this year. Why are we talking about cutting him? Well, because if you were to cut him, it would save $15 million against the cap. Now, you could potentially restructure him. That could change things up. But yeah, it would save, I'm sorry, more than that. It would save $15.4 million against the cap if you were to cut him. And only cost you $333,000. So that's why. I think he's good. He's not $15 million good. Again, if you restructure him, that's probably your most likely scenario. But they're not going to keep him at 15.7 million for next year. They would likely either cut him or restructure him. Ooh, good question from Ethan. Okay, if you had to guess, who's your starting 5 alignment in 23? Okay, so I think the guards are going to be Laken and AVT. I guess I'll go Rookie at left tackle. Becton at right tackle if he stays healthy. If not, it would be Max Mitchell. But I guess I'll say Becton. And center, another rookie. I think there's a chance that they could take 2 offensive linemen in their first 3 rounds of the draft, maybe the first 2 rounds of the draft. The thing with McGovern, I know a lot of people want to bring back Connor McGovern, but I think he's at $9 million now. With how the center market is set, he would probably be the best center available. So I would see him getting a raise. And I don't know if I want to pay up to $12 million for Connor McGovern, who I think is just okay. I'd rather find the guy in the draft in the 2nd round, 3rd round, something like that. Curly says we drafted Jermaine Johnson to eventually replace Lawson. That's true. I mean, if Lawson goes, that's a lot more snaps for Bryce Huff, Michael Clemens, and Jermaine Johnson, which I'm not, I wouldn't be mad at. I think all 3 of those guys can play and probably deserve a little bit more playing time than what they got this past year. Oh, Joe, that's a good one. Thank you for also pointing out Barrios and Whitehead. Cutting Lawson, Davis, Whitehead, Barrios, plus Brown post June 1st puts them at $49 million in cap space. Yep. Whitehead was significantly underwhelming. I was disappointed. They very well could use 2 new starting safeties next year. I wish I knew the answer to this, Dante, who sends in a super chat. Thanks again for supporting my friend. Says, why do we suck at drafting quarterbacks? What the F is going on? There's a lot that goes into it. Missing twice in the top 5 since 2018 is almost unfathomable. It's happened way, way, way too often. Part of it's picking the wrong guy. Part of it's the situation that they put these guys in. There's no easy science to it, clearly. But it sucks when you see like the Chargers go from Rivers to Herbert, or you see the Packers go from Favre to Rodgers. And you see these teams be able to have a quarterback for 15 years and be able to pass that baton on to someone else and figure it out. But the Jets have been searching forever for that quarterback and can't find a long-term answer there. It's unbelievably frustrating. It sucks. Eventually you got to find one, but they've just been so bad at it. Dante says, but how are we that bad at it? I wish I knew. I don't know. I wish I knew. Joe says, I think Becton going back to the left side, but maybe a swing tackle. Yeah, look, I just don't think you could rely on Becton to say, okay, that's it. He's our starting left tackle next year. We don't have to worry about drafting an offensive lineman. Because maybe, this is a really optimistic view. So don't say this is Matt O'Leary's preferred plan. It's not. But there's a world where, let's say, Skoronski is the pick. Would it surprise you if Skoronski played right tackle and if Mekhi was healthy, they had him play left tackle? With maybe insurance policy of like Brown still back there, something like that. You might have a case there. All right, let's see. It's 6-6 in this game, 50-yard field goal attempt here for the 49ers, and right down the middle. Robbie Gould's still doing the damn thing. How old is he? He's got to be 150 years old. Easy. What else we got in here? I have time for a few more, but I'm going to hop out of here. I've been on for about an hour. Got time for a few more. Jets Gang says Bengals going back to the Super Bowl. They are really hot right now. I think my early swing is the Bengals in that game, but I think that Bengals and the Chiefs is going to be a great AFC Championship game. Rob says Bieniemy only signed for 1 year last year. Essentially, his contract would be up when their season ends. True. I just don't see him leaving. I think it's a really good spot to be in there, especially if they win again. NY Jet Superfan says AVT will play right tackle. Damn good. Gold looks good for 150. He could. AVT could play tackle. I just think his ceiling is the highest at guard. I think he would be a like I think he's a fine tackle, but I think he'd be an elite guard, which maybe you take the fine tackle. I think my preference is just moving him inside, but I'm not gonna argue with you over it because I get it. I get the take. I don't hate the take either. Oh no, poor Snowball says gotta take the dog for a walk, but it's pouring. Yeah, I don't think my dog hates getting wet. Casey hates getting wet, so she don't want to go out. It's gonna be a pain just to get her to go outside before before bedtime later. Michael says, any interest in Hopkins? Think we need another wide receiver after cutting Davis? It's going to be a lot. It's going to cost a lot of money to do that. I don't know. I would probably rather sign someone like Alan Lazard to be the number 2 or 3, depending on where you put Elijah Moore. Alan Lazard is younger. He's a great blocker. He's fine as a pass catcher. He's not going to light the world on fire, but he'll give you 700, 800 receiving yards, something like that. Great red zone threat, big body guy, which is what they need. Great run blocker, which we know how much the Jets seem to prioritize wide receivers who can block. I think that's a fit that makes the most sense. Thank you, Ken. Jamie? Microfox's AVT needs to stay at his natural position. We can't afford him getting hurt again. We need a massive left tackle. I agree. I think that's where we're going to close out for tonight, guys. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. What else we got? We got a mock draft coming for you tomorrow, mock draft Monday action. So be on the lookout for that. Talking Jets on Tuesday, regular Just Jets podcast on Wednesday. Appreciate you guys. Thank you for hanging. I'm Matt O'Leary, and I will talk to you next time.